One of the most common mistakes in storytelling is to write unlikable characters. There is a number of reasons why your characters might be not working. The audience can't connect with them, you ignore the basics of character writing, or maybe all of your characters feel the same. Let's talk about the first issue. The purpose of a character is to connect with the audience. A character is the vehicle we use to deliver the story to the audience. If the reader doesn't feel empathy for your character, the audience is not going to care about your theme and plot. When the reader doesn't connect with the character, it's probably because the personality of the character is too extreme. The character is either perfect or a complete loser. Characters that are perfect doesn't feel human, and the audience can't root for losers without redeeming qualities. There is a spectrum of personalities from the pathetic crybabies to the Gary Stews and Mary Sues. A Mary Sue or Gary Stew is a character that is perfect, and sometimes writers project too much of themselves in these characters, and because of their own insecurities, they cover any flaw that the character might have, and the story is going to end up being an insufferable power fantasy. Some writers like to cover up this problem with artificial flaws, like, oh, my character is so clumsy, but at the same time is a skilled archer that never misses. Or, oh, my character is so ugly, but all the characters around it are attracted to it. The flaws of your character need to be real. They need to affect the life of your character and the plot. Then you have the pathetic crybabies at the other side of the spectrum. These are the opposite of a Mary Sue. The author puts all of their insecurities into these characters. They cry for everything, they are ugly, cowards, and weak. And because they lack good qualities, the audience is going to refuse to connect with them. We like to cheer for our heroes, for those who inspire us. I like to think of Rick and Morty when I discuss this subject. Rick is the smartest man in the universe, but he's still a jerk and emotionally broken. Morty was just an average teenager with not much going for him, but the more time he spends with Rick, the more assertive he becomes. It is through character interactions that you can balance characters. The contrast between these and other characters of the series create an entertaining experience. Rick needs Morty and Morty needs Rick, but they still need to have some balance in their qualities and flaws in order to work by themselves. Another good point we need to discuss is the character's dramatic arc. If you're writing a classic hero's journey, maybe your character should have more flaws than virtues at the beginning of the story. In other words, leave room for improvement. If your character is already heroic and instead of changing is the agent of change others need, then your character should be leaning more into the good quality side of the spectrum. Now we are going to establish the basics of character writing. There are three main classification systems you need to understand in order to know the different types of characters. These are characters by their relevance, characters by their role, and characters by their dimensions. Characters by their relevance in the plot. There are main characters, secondary characters, tertiary characters, and incidental characters. All of them are important for the integrity of your story, but a main character is going to have way more screen time than a tertiary character. But imagine you are writing a boxing story, and there are no referees or coaches in your story. Your story is going to lack depth and realism due to the lack of attention to incidental characters. A good incidental character might be the difference between a boring scene and a memorable one. It's all in the character interactions. Then you have the roles of the characters. The heroes, the characters that are pursuing their goal through the plot. The villains and rivals, those characters that their purpose is to be an obstacle to the hero. Not all obstacles are persons though. Some writers like to call this role the shadow, in case one of your sources of conflict is not a character. And speaking of obstacles, you have the threshold guardians. These are obstacles that your hero might encounter in their way to the main conflict, and after overcoming them, the hero usually learns something or receives a reward. Other important roles are the shapeshifters, characters that play with the expectations of the reader. They look bad but end up being good, or vice versa. The tricksters, comedy relief characters that are used to adjust the dramatic tension and keep the tone of the story consistent. And the mentors or teachers. And then you have characters with different dimensions. 3-dimensional characters, 2-dimensional characters, 1-dimensional characters, and even 8-dimensional characters. More dimensions doesn't necessarily means better characters. It all depends on the role of your character, the tone and genre of the story, whatever makes your story more enjoyable and entertaining. Now that we know the different types of characters, let's learn about building character psychology using character elements. In order to build your character psychology, you will need the following elements: a dramatic goal, a point of view, an attitude, a backstory, a ghost, a change, and a spine. The dramatic need and goal is what your character needs and wants. Sometimes what your character needs, it's not what they want. Sometimes it is the same thing, and that interaction can be entertaining. The character point of view is the philosophy of your character. Does your character think it's useless to pursue its goal, or does it think that he needs to be disciplined? Then you have the attitude of the character. You might have two characters with the same goal and the same philosophy, and what is going to separate them is their attitudes. Maybe character A is a bit more insecure, and character B is overconfident. The character backstory is the past of your character, the biography, the events that are important to the plot. A lot of writers create really detailed biographies, and that is not always necessary, especially on characters with not much screen time. The backstory is not always going to be shown to the audience. It's a tool that helps the writer understand the characters. The ghost or the scar is an important event in the character's backstory. Most of the time, it's a traumatic event. Like Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender, his scar is his literal scar, the day his father burned his face. This event is impactful and is connected to the other character elements. But the most important element of all is the character spine. This is the core of your character, the driving force. Your character wants what it wants because of the spine. The character acts and makes its choices based on its spine, but more of that in another video. Another reason why your characters are unlikable is because they all feel the same. They all sound alike, and there is no contrast in their personalities. This makes things difficult to write entertaining interactions. This issue is extremely common with new writers. All of the characters speak and think like the author. Not all of your characters have to be nice. I know this video is about writing likable characters, but there is a difference between not liking a character because it's poorly written and not liking a character because he's a bad person. There are bad characters that add good people, and there are good characters that add bad people. The best example I can think of is Skyler White from Breaking Bad. Almost no one likes her, but as a character, she's incredibly written. This character is able to evoke strong emotions in the audience. She makes us angry or frustrated, and therefore the Breaking Bad experience is richer. So remember to write a character or two that you and your audience are going to hate. One last piece of advice: do not play favorites. It's okay to hate one of your characters or to love one of your characters, but when you as the writer is helping a character because you like it, or that you are sabotaging a character just because you don't like it, it's not good for your story. Remember, the story is king. Killing a character that no one cares about is not even entertaining, but killing a character that even you as the author loved, that hits hard. So go ahead and improve your characters. I believe in you.